You look at Chairman Xi meeting with Putin in the Beijing Olympics, talking about the invasion, by the way, and Xi's saying we can't just wait till after the Olympics are over. They have formed, and this is very much on our radar, sort of an unholy alliance now that's deeply troubling, particularly if you look at Taiwan and the situation. I was with the ambassador Taiwan, had breakfast, with her. They're facing what could be a similar situation. And in my judgment, we need to look at arming them. Yeah, in my position on foreign affairs, the chair and I sign off on all foreign military weapon sales. And so there's a laundry list of about 10 different weapon systems that we signed off on a year or two ago that have yet to get into Taiwan. And we can speak about this later, Michael. I have my own theories about what she is probably thinking. It may be easier to do more deceptive overthrow through the elections without the shot fired.
What are the implications of this episode for Taiwan? I mean, I presume the Chinese are thinking, well, if they ever contemplate a military action, they better get the logistics right, since the Russian exercise seems to be a case study in how not to do it. But on the West has been certainly condemned the action and provided arms. On the other hand, the United States and its allies have made it clear that if you're not a member of the NATO alliance, we're not going to fight for you directly. You have to do it all yourself. So what are the implications, do you think, for Taiwan?
Well, I call him Chairman Xi. He is studying this very closely. And he's made his decision to align himself with Putin. And we're trying to figure out right now to what extent he's helping Putin. He obviously had advance warning about this. And he's always, just like Putin has always wanted Ukraine, Chairman Xi's always wanted Taiwan. And he just like Putin considers Ukraine part of Imperial Russia, Xi considers Taiwan as Imperial China. The weaponry is very disproportionate here. China would be in a very different position. I think they could go in and it would be a matter of days. And so that's why I think it's important that we help Taiwan. In fact, I had breakfast this morning with the Taiwanese ambassador, and I asked the Deputy Secretary of State today, Wendy Sherman, I have a list of about 15 weapon systems that the chairman and I have signed off to go into Taiwan, signed a year and some of them 2 years ago, that have still not gone into Taiwan. To me, that's deterrence, and these are asymmetric weapon warfare systems that they really need. But he's very clever, and the difference between China and Iran is the supply chains. We're so intertwined with China, what makes it more difficult when it comes to sanctions, not to mention the fact that they have their own digital yuan and cryptocurrency that they're forming to where they could potentially get off the SWIFT, and have a currency that could evade sanctions. So I think that poses a whole another set of problems. But I think our Pacific Command has to have more of a presence. I think the weapons. If I could indulge, 1997, I'll make this short. I prosecuted this guy, Johnny Chung, led us to the director of Chinese intelligence and China Aerospace, putting money in his Hong Kong bank account to influence the presidential election. At that point, it was Clinton. And because of the aerospace, they've always looked at influencing elections. I think the smart play, not to give them any advice here, they're very deceptive. They know how to infiltrate. They're very good at disinformation. And President Tsai is up in 2 years and she's term limited. Another calculation here, especially when he looks at how maybe Putin miscalculated in Ukraine, is going the route of deception and the route of trying to, like in Hong Kong, take over Taiwan through an election without one shot fired.
My question is a Taiwan question. I have been assuming, at least for the immediate future, that the Chinese can't get across the Taiwan Ocean there, 110 miles, in the face of the American, Japanese, and Australian Navy. Is that a misplaced assurance? What do you think about that?
Yeah,
Thank
I mean, when our Navy's there, they have invaded Taiwanese airspace. They have a presence at the Taiwan Straits in a very intimidating fashion. And Governor, I mean, this takes me back to the point I was trying to make is that that's why we need sea mines. They need this asymmetric. They need the harpoons, which are the anti-ship weapons that they're on that laundry list I talked about, but we can't get it to them. It's very, very frustrating. And there are things we can be doing for them, right now to provide that kind of deterrence. So when Xi's making that decision, does he really want that kind of conflict? Now, the Quad, that being Japan, Australia, India, the United States has provided some deterrence. I've been quite honestly disappointed in India's position on the UN Council resolution because they have so much Russian military equipment. But I think there are things, the AUKUS caucus, the nuclear submarines, but those won't be built for probably 4-5 years. But there are a lot of other things we can be putting in there. And I think if China thinks that, or Xi thinks that he's going to have the same resistance that Putin has had worldwide, with respect to Ukraine, if he thinks that's going to happen with Taiwan, that could potentially change his calculus. And Australia's very worried about this. And, I talked to him a lot. And Japan, for that matter. I think, Japan we should urge them to change their constitution so they can build their own military. And I think the more China sees that kind of deterrence, the more likely they'll back down. They're always into a long, deceptive campaign. They're never one to rush into things necessarily.